So there are 6 big old buckets in D&D, and everything that your character might do is based around these big buckets. We like to think of them in terms of everything that you can do to a tomato, or that a tomato could do to you. So your first...
Ooh, dangerous.
Ooh, right? So
Yuck.
if you don't like tomatoes, I'm really sorry. This segment might be a little painful for you. Let's look at a character sheet, and we're going to kind of go back and forth between like the guts of how you set this up and then what you're going to see in game. So right up here along the top, just under Happy's name, you see these 6 buckets. The first one is strength. Strength is how hard your character can throw a tomato. So if they're really strong, they're going to be able to cause a lot of damage by chunking that tomato at their foes. Dexterity is how well you can dodge a tomato that's being thrown at you, or maybe if somebody left a tomato out on the floor rude, how well you could dodge slipping on it and breaking your back. Broken backs in D&D, no fun. Up next is Constitution, which I know this was the one that had me scratching my head as a newbie. Constitution is how many tomato hits your character can take before they become seriously injured. So if you're a big and beefy baddie, you can have a bunch of tomatoes hurled at you and just kind of shake them off. Intelligence is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put a tomato in a fruit salad. So when you're breaking down these scores, if you have a character with a high intelligence score, they might be the ones who are more bookish, more learned, went to university, studied. Whereas your wise characters are going to be the ones with just a little bit more, maybe common sense and innate knowledge. Charisma is the ability to ensure that nobody throws a tomato at you in the first place. So that's kind of the rundown. So why we bring these up now is that as you understand how these ability scores are kind of placed, they're going to kind of trickle down. That's why they're at the top of your character sheet, because they kind of affect a bunch of the other things that you're going to do in session. So understanding if your character has a really low strength and a really high wisdom, how that might play out in game. So pre-gen character sheets are great because it does all of this math for you. We've had some people who played D&D back in the day play with us, and they had to use like graph paper and calculator. None of that. If you don't want to do math, as Matt and I shared a couple weeks ago, you can just click a button. You don't have to do any math at all. It's great. If you like doing math, then you can do some ding math. Yeah,
I'd like to just share, number one, I think that's a really great analogy, the tomato analogy. It also sort of reminds me of the AA diatribe that people say. It's like, maybe this is weird to say, but it's like, grant me the wisdom to do something and the intelligence to grant me the strength to kill a tomato and the wisdom to not eat one if I'm allergic.
Grant me the constitution to take lots of tomato hits and the charisma to not have them thrown at me in the first place.